about this upper back rounding, and this starts to go, if we just go down the chain, when you were talking about that waddle, are we getting proper toe off?
No, not at all.
No. Frequently with a gait pattern like that, we had a question come in about bunions, and some of this was like, are bunions genetic? You know, is surgery going to help with the bunions? But either way, I feel like I'm doomed to have them because my mom has them, my grandma has them, etc. So the waddle posture you were talking about, I'll do the bunion demo. This will be
perfect.
Muscles move the bones, and a lot of times we unconsciously are training our posture. We're training the position that we're in. So if you're externally rotated and you have the waddle, right? So here's the thing. Instead of proper toe off, when my foot is averted, I am toeing off the inside portion of my foot, pushing my big toe toward my other toes. Does that make sense? Maybe so people don't get sick, I'll put this on the floor. Okay, I should have thought of this before. So if you're here and you're doing this, every time I toe off, I'm toeing off by pushing my big toe toward my other toes. And while this is also an exaggeration for some, this explains how the bunion thing starts to happen. This is also why people who wear heels a lot tend to get bunions too, because all of your toes are smushed together into this narrowing toe box. Same deal when you're walking. You're smushing all your toes together outwardly. And then that starts to cause the bone just below your big toe to like protrude because it's responding to the big toe pushing outward. You know what I mean? Yeah. Yeah. So what that does tell us is that when it comes to bunions, these are habits that you can retrain. These are habits that you can break. It's not genetic. It's not like you're doomed to have them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Would you say there's like a common trend within bunions as to weak muscles, strong muscles, culprits, victims?
Culprits, victims.
Compensations, dysfunction.
Yeah. Typically externally rotated femurs.
Yeah, totally.
Is one thing, which, you know, and then I think about, not that everybody falls into this category, but if you just think about like a dancer and they tend to externally rotate, a lot of times they have messed up feet. And usually if they're not doing if they're not doing ballet, but they still have messed up feet, it's because every time they step, they're still walking with their foot turned out versus parallel. Yeah. And that influences that. So externally rotated femurs would be one thing when your knees point out and your toes point out. Another one is bunions tend to come up also when people have more of a condition 3, like posterior pelvis, and they get that shuffle gait. Those are some things that I've noticed. How about for you?
Yeah. Going off of that, like proper hip extension. So when the leg's going behind you, it's straight. But I think more so up the chain, like making sure that the primary hip flexors are engaged and your psoas muscles are engaged. Because when it comes to like hypermobility and dancers and stuff, like that's a big piece of it, is like your foot isn't connecting with your knee, which can connect with your hip. So it's like that there's a kink in the hose.
There's a kink in the hose. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
It's kind of like, it reminds me of like your big toes now like a kickstand versus like giving you proper foot function. Yeah. And then sometimes we see like more of like a fallen arch or high arch.
Definitely.
Like both of those are common as well.
Yeah. So. And with a posterior pelvis, like when the pelvis tucks underneath too, then you end up in a side position kind of like this, which is still going to force the knees into flexion, and then you kind of have this shift side to side when you walk. And I'm sure some people have seen people walk like that, and those people tend to have bunions too. Have you had any clients who have had the bunion surgery where they've like shaped the bone? Okay.
Not the most successful.
Okay. Yeah. What happened, and why do you think that is?
I feel like if they do get it done on one side, they end up having to get it done later on the other side, or doing the same side again, because again, it's not addressing the root of the problem, just the
right.
symptom.
Yeah, right. So if your gait pattern keeps enforcing this sort of foot position after a matter of time, you know, this surgery is going to become moot.
Yeah. Similar to like almost carpal tunnel too. Like I've had some clients get surgery and have to go back in again.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
And that's actually, that we've had that with a few things. Same with like spine surgery also, which is very unfortunate when you're trying to resolve an issue with a disc herniation, and then a couple of years later, it's like the disc right above it or below it is starting to be problematic. It's because we're not addressing the asymmetry in the hips or in the shoulders that created this in the first place. So with regards to bunions, have you worked with people who've had it and then like through doing their menu, they were able to correct the foot position?
Yeah, and definitely like keeping them on a consistent menu is really important for, I would call it more like maintenance, like life maintenance, right?
Yeah. And have you been able to see changes in the foot and their toe alignment and things like that?
Yes, me and Lisa are also big advocates of the toe separators.
Oh, it's wonderful.
They're fabulous.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do feel like bunions are a little bit more, and not, this isn't, all bunions aren't created equally, but like it does take consistency. Like to think that it's going to go away overnight, like you're kidding yourself, because it didn't happen overnight. And usually it's like with ballerinas and people that have been on their feet for so long, like we're really having to rewire and create new muscle memory. So that's going to take like some consistency.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then the fascia too, then it gets so tight. Usually when that happens, people have a difficult time separating the rest of their toes, not all, most. So getting that whole fascia line to expand and allow the muscles of your feet to properly articulate would be crucial. But if you do your menu every day, I've noticed, I mean, you can change the alignment of your knees, you can change the alignment of your feet.
I've like seen some pretty gnarly feet too. I don't know about you, but, and this isn't even like, not just at the clinic, but I remember like the first time my grandma took her shoes off, which she's like, she has bunions. And I was like, have your feet like been outside of a shoe? And like how long has it been? Like, it's almost just like it morphs, you know? It's like, you got to get those toes spreading. And like, that's why we wear the toe socks and the toe shoes. It's like, we don't want bunions.